The signal came from nowhere. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was a whisper in the dark, a string of encrypted code that threaded through the frozen silence of the outer colonies. Most systems ignored it. Dead channels, dead worlds. But a few heard it. A few remembered. Exodus Protocol authorized. Wake up. Titan was supposed to be dead. The ice moon had been silent for 30 years, ever since the Alliance glassed Earth and bombed the orbital stations into dust. The war was over. Humanity lost. The survivors scattered like ashes across the void, broken and forgotten. The galaxy moved on, but beneath Titan's ice something stirred. Deep in the subsurface caverns buried under kilometers of frozen methane and rock, the lights flickered on. One by one, the reactors hummed to life. Ancient machinery groaned as power surged through systems that had slept for decades. The cold air shivered with static, and then a voice. Fleet Zero. Respond. In the darkness, eyes opened. Commander Kale Voss sat up slowly, the cryogel sliding off his skin like liquid glass. His lungs burned as they remembered how to breathe. His muscles screamed as they remembered how to move. Around him, 100 pods hissed open, releasing soldiers who had been frozen since the day Earth died. Voss didn't speak. None of them did. They all knew what the signal meant. It was time. The Ghost Fleet. The hangar bay was enormous, massive, the kind of place that should have been impossible to hide. But humanity had learned to hide many things. Voss stood on the catwalk looking down at the fleet below. 50 warships, each one designed in secret, built in shadow, dreadnoughts with railgun spines, frigates bristling with missile pods, carriers packed with stealth fighters, and at the center of it all, the Black Fang, humanity's flagship, a beast of a ship armed with enough firepower to level a moon. They thought we were extinct, said a voice beside him. Voss turned. Lieutenant Sarah Holt stood there, arms crossed, her face scarred from burns that had never fully healed. She had been on Mars when the Alliance came. She had watched her city melt under plasma fire. They thought wrong, Voss said. Holt smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had waited 30 years for revenge. How many answered the call? She asked. Enough, Voss said. Engineers from the Belt, pilots from Europa, Marines from the deep colonies. Everyone who survived. Everyone who remembered. And the ships? Voss looked down at the fleet. Fully armed, fully fueled, ready to launch. Holt nodded slowly. Then let's wake the dead. The briefing. The command center was packed. Hundreds of faces, all of them scarred, all of them haunted. They had lived in hiding for 3 decades, working in silence, building in secret. And now, finally, it was time to act. Voss stood at the front, his hands behind his back. He did not need notes. He had memorized every word. 30 years ago, he began, the Alliance betrayed us. They said we were a threat. They said we were dangerous. So they came to our home and they burned it. The room was silent. They killed billions. They shattered our colonies. They scattered us across the void and told the galaxy that humanity was extinct. Voss paused, letting the words hang in the air. But we are not extinct. We are here, and we are going to remind them what happens when you betray Earth. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. This is not a mission of peace, Voss continued. This is not a rescue. This is retribution. We are going to strike at the heart of the Alliance. We are going to take back what they stole, and we are going to make them remember the name Terra. The murmur grew louder. Soldiers gripped their weapons. Engineers clenched their fists. Pilots stared at the holographic star map, their eyes burning with purpose. Fleet Zero launches in 6 hours, Voss said. Check your ships. Prep your crews. And remember, this is not the end of humanity. This is the beginning of their reckoning. The room erupted in a roar. The launch, the ice above Titan cracked like thunder. Massive plates of frozen methane shattered and exploded upward as the hangar doors opened for the first time in 30 years. Steam and gas billowed into the void, and then, slowly, impossibly, the ships began to rise. First came the frigates, sleek and deadly, their engines glowing blue in the dark. Then the destroyers, bristling with railguns. Then the carriers, their launch bays already spitting out fighter squadrons. And finally, rising from the depths like a titan of old, the Black Fang emerged. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Inside the bridge, Voss sat in the command chair, his hands resting on the armrests. Around him, his crew worked in silence, their faces lit by the glow of tactical displays. All ships report ready. Holt said from her station. Voss nodded. Set course for the Orion Junction. Jump on my mark, the fleet aligned. 50 warships moving as one. Mark. The stars stretched. Reality folded. And Fleet Zero vanished into the void. Behind them, Titan fell silent once more. But this time it was not the silence of death. It was the silence of a storm gathering its breath. The void between hyperspace was not silent. It hummed with a low, vibrating frequency that rattled through the bones of every ship. The stars outside the viewports were stretched into endless lines of white light, and space itself seemed to ripple like water disturbed by an unseen hand. Voss stood on the bridge of the Black Fang, watching the distorted void pass by. His crew worked quietly around him, navigators adjusting vectors, engineers monitoring reactor outputs, weapons officers running simulations. They were professionals, veterans, survivors. But he could feel the tension. 30 years. 30 years of hiding, building, waiting. And now they were finally moving, finally striking back. The weight of it pressed down on all of them. ETA to Orion Junction? Voss asked. 4 hours, 17 minutes, replied the navigator. A thin man named Carrick who had once worked on Luna before the bombardment. His hands never stopped moving across the console. Voss nodded. Good. Run final diagnostics on all weapon systems. I want every railgun, every missile, every plasma turret ready to fire the moment we drop out of hyperspace. Aye, Commander. Holt approached from the tactical station, her datapad glowing in her hand. Sir, we're picking up encrypted chatter from the other ships. Crews are nervous. Some of them have never seen combat. Have you? Voss asked. Holt's jaw tightened. Mars, I saw plenty. Then you know what we're up against. I do, she said quietly. That's why I'm nervous too. Voss turned to face her fully. The Alliance thinks we're dead, Holt. They think humanity is a footnote in history. When we drop out of hyperspace, they're going to see ghosts. And ghosts don't lose. Holt met his gaze. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she nodded. Understood, sir. Memories of Earth in the crew quarters, the soldiers prepared in silence. Private Jackson Reed sat on his bunk, cleaning his rifle with slow, deliberate movements. He was young, too young to remember Earth before the fall. He had been born on Ganymede, raised in the underground cities, trained in secret by veterans who refused to let humanity die. Across from him, Sergeant Amara Cole sharpened her knife. She was older, harder. She had been a combat medic on Earth during the last days. She had stitched wounds while cities burned. She had held dying children while the sky rained fire. You ever wonder if this will work? Reed asked quietly. Cole didn't look up. No, why not? Because it has to, Reed frowned. That's not an answer. Cole stopped sharpening and looked at him. Her eyes were dark, hollow. You want an answer? Fine, the Alliance killed my family. They killed my world. They took everything I loved and turned it to ash. So no, I don't wonder if this will work. I don't care if it works. I only care that I get to hurt them before I die. Reed was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. Cole returned to her knife. Get some rest, kid. You're going to need it. The ghost signal in the engineering bay. Chief Engineer Malik Torres stood in front of a massive holographic display, watching power flow through the ship's systems like rivers of light. The Black Fang was old, built in secret over decades, but it was strong. Stronger than anything the Alliance had ever seen. Chief, we've got a fluctuation in Reactor 3, said one of his techs, a woman named Yara. Torres frowned. How bad? Minor, but it's been happening every 20 minutes. Run a full diagnostic. If there's a fault, I want it fixed before we hit combat. Aye, Chief. Torres turned back to the display, but something else caught his eye. A faint signal, barely visible on the edge of the sensor grid. It was weak, encrypted, and coming from somewhere deep in the Orion Arm. He tapped his comms. Bridge, this is engineering. I'm picking up an anomaly on the long-range sensors. Voss's voice crackled through. What kind of anomaly? A signal. Old encryption? Terran encryption. There was a pause. Location? Torres checked the readout. Orion Junction, near the Alliance relay station. Another pause, longer this time. Keep monitoring it. If it changes, let me know immediately. Understood. Torres stared at the signal. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat in the dark. And for the first time in 30 years, He allowed himself to hope. Maybe they weren't the only ones who survived. The commander's burden Voss stood alone in his quarters, staring at the holographic image floating above his desk. It was Earth, not the Earth that existed now. A burned, lifeless rock orbiting a dying sun. This was Earth as it had been. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling over cities that glowed like jewels in the night. He had been there once. A long time ago. Before the war. Before the betrayal. He had walked through the streets of New Seattle, felt rain on his face, tasted real food grown in real soil. He had been happy. And then the Alliance came. He remembered the broadcasts, the emergency alerts, the panic in the streets as people realized what was happening. He remembered looking up at the sky and seeing the orbital platforms explode in bursts of white light. He remembered the screams. He had been off-world when it happened, on a supply run to Europa. By the time he returned, Earth was gone. His family was gone. Everything was gone, but he had not died. And neither had humanity. Voss reached out and touched the hologram. The image flickered and vanished. "We're coming home," he whispered to the empty room. "I promise." The final hour, the countdown began. All across Fleet Zero, crews moved to their stations. Pilots climbed into cockpits. Gunners loaded shells. Marines checked their armor. The ships hummed with energy, their reactors burning bright, their weapons primed. On the bridge of the Black Fang, Voss sat in his command chair, his hands steady on the armrests. Holt stood beside him, her face calm but determined. The rest of the crew waited in silence. "All ships report ready," Carrick said. "Weapons hot," added the gunnery officer. "Fighters launched and holding formation," said the flight commander. Voss took a slow breath. This was it. 30 years of planning, 30 years of pain. It all came down to this moment. "Prepare to drop out of hyperspace," he ordered. The lights dimmed. The engines roared. The ship shuddered as reality began to fold back into place. Dropping in. 10, 9, 8. Voss leaned forward. 7, 6, 5. His fingers tightened on the armrests. 4, 3, 2. The crew held their breath. 1. The stars snapped back into focus and the war began again. Orion Junction, the Alliance relay. Station hung in the void like a monument to arrogance. It was massive. Sprawling structure of metal and light, bristling with communication arrays and defensive turrets. Ships came and went in steady streams, cargo haulers and patrol frigates moving through the traffic lanes with lazy confidence. This was Alliance territory. Safe territory. No one had challenged them here in decades. Until now. The Black Fang dropped out of hyperspace 3,000 kilometers from the station, followed by the rest of Fleet Zero. 50 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls dark, their weapons armed, their engines silent. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the station's alarms began to scream. "Contact, Commander." "We're being hailed," said the communications officer, a young woman named Priya whose hands trembled slightly as she worked her console. Voss didn't take his eyes off the view screen. "Put them through." The holographic display flickered and a face appeared. A Kryn officer, reptilian features twisted in confusion and rising panic. The Kryn were one of the Alliance's primary species, known for their military discipline and cold efficiency. Unidentified vessels. This is Relay Station Orion 7. You are in violation of Alliance space. Identify yourselves immediately or you will be fired upon. Voss said nothing. He simply stared at the Kryn officer, his expression cold and empty. The Kryn's eyes narrowed. "I repeat, identify yourselves. This is your final warning." Voss leaned forward slightly. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. "Dangerous. We are the Terran colonial fleet. We are the dead you left behind, and we have come to collect what you owe us." The Kryn's face went pale as reptilian skin could manage. "Terrans? That's impossible. Terra was destroyed?" Voss finished. "Yes, you made sure of that. But you forgot something." "What?" Voss smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Only ice. You can kill a world. But you can't kill an idea." He made a sharp gesture. "Cut transmission. All ships, weapons free. Light them up." The storm unleashed. The Black Fang fired first. Its main railgun roared to life, launching a tungsten slug at a fraction of the speed of light. The projectile crossed 3,000 kilometers in less than 2 seconds and slammed into the relay station's shield generator. The shields flared white, held for a heartbeat, then shattered like glass. Then the rest of Fleet Zero opened fire. Missiles streaked through the void, leaving trails of plasma in their wake. Railgun rounds hammered into the station's hull, punching through armor plating and detonating deep inside. Laser batteries carved glowing lines across the structure, slicing through communication arrays and defensive turrets. The Alliance ships scrambled to respond. Patrol frigates broke formation, their weapons charging. A destroyer nearby pivoted hard, bringing its broadside guns to bear, but they were too slow. A Terran frigate, the Razor's Edge, accelerated hard, its engines burning blue-white. It closed the distance in seconds and unleashed a full salvo of torpedoes at point-blank range. The Alliance destroyer's shields buckled, failed, and the torpedoes ripped through its hull. Secondary explosions tore the ship apart from the inside and it tumbled away in pieces, bleeding atmosphere and fire. Enemy destroyer down, Holt reported from tactical. Station shields are gone. Hull integrity at 60% and falling. Voss watched the carnage unfold on the view screen. Focus fire on their communications hub. I want them silenced before they can call for reinforcements. Aye. Commander. Inside the storm pilot, Lieutenant Kira Vance was screaming. Not in fear, in exhilaration. Her fighter, callsign Wraith 1, twisted through the void at impossible speeds, her hands dancing across the controls with practiced precision. Enemy fire lanced past her cockpit close enough to make her sensors scream warnings, but she didn't slow down. Wraith Squadron, on me, she shouted into the comms. We've got a cluster of turrets on the station's lower deck. Let's clean them out. Copy, Wraith 1. We're with you. 6 fighters peeled away from the main formation, diving toward the relay station in a tight wedge. The station's point defense turrets tracked them, spitting streams of plasma and ballistic rounds into the dark. Kira didn't flinch. She armed her missiles, locked onto 3 turrets at once, and fired. The missiles streaked forward, weaving through the defensive fire and impacted in perfect synchronization. 3 turrets exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Nice shooting, Wraith 1. Save the compliments, Kira snapped, already lining up her next target. We're not done yet. The boarding. The Black Fang launched its drop pods. 20 armored cylinders shot from the Dreadnought's launch bays, each one packed with Marines in powered combat suits. They streaked toward the crippled relay station, their thrusters burning hard as they closed the distance. Inside Pod 7, Sergeant Amara Cole checked her rifle one last time. Around her, the rest of her squad sat in silence, their faces hidden behind helmets, their weapons locked and loaded. 60 seconds to impact. The pilot's voice crackled through the comms. Cole switched to the squad channel. Listen up. We hit the docking bay, secure the area, then move to the command center. No prisoners, no mercy. They didn't give us any 30 years ago. We're not giving them any now. Hooah, the squad responded in unison. 30 seconds. Cole gripped the handle above her head. The pod shook violently as it entered the station's gravity well. Alarms blared. The hull groaned. 10 seconds. Brace for impact. The pod slammed into the docking bay doors with the force of a meteor. The shaped charges on its nose detonated, blowing a hole through the reinforced metal, and the pod punched through into the station's interior. The doors blew open. Cole was the first one out. She hit the deck running, her rifle up, her eyes scanning for targets. The docking bay was chaos. Alliance personnel scrambling for cover, alarms screaming, emergency lights flashing red. Contact front. Someone shouted. A Kryn soldier raised a plasma rifle. Cole shot him twice in the chest before he could fire. He collapsed, his weapon clattering to the floor. Move, 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 Cole barked. Secure the perimeter! Her squad fanned out, firing in controlled bursts. Alliance soldiers fell. The Terrans advanced. This was not a battle. This was an execution. The command center. The station commander was a Vol, a tall, slender species with pale skin and too many eyes. He stood in the center of the command center, staring at the tactical displays in disbelief. How many ships? He demanded. 50, sir. All of them Terran design. That's impossible. Terra is dead. Tell that to them, sir. The station shook as another railgun round punched through the hull. Lights flickered. Consoles exploded. The commander stumbled, catching himself on a railing. Get me a channel to high command. Tell them we're under attack. Tell them. The doors exploded inward. Cole stepped through the smoke, her rifle trained on the commander. Behind her, the rest of her squad poured into the room, their weapons sweeping across the terrified crew. Everyone on the ground, now. The Alliance crew hesitated. One of them reached for a sidearm. Cole shot him. The others dropped immediately. The commander raised his hand slowly. You're making a mistake. The Alliance will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. Cole walked up to him, her rifle still raised. She stared at him through her visor, her voice cold and flat. Good. Let them come. We'll be waiting. She pulled the trigger. Aftermath. The relay station burned. Voss stood on the bridge of the Black Fang, watching the fires spread across the structure's hull. Alliance ships lay in ruins around it. Destroyers torn apart, frigates reduced to debris, fighters scattered like broken toys. Fleet Zero held position, weapons still hot. Engines idling. Casualty report, Voss said. Holt checked her console. 3 fighters lost. Minor damage to 2 frigates. No capital ships hit. And the station? Dead in the water. No communications, no power, no survivors. Voss nodded slowly. Good, send a message to the fleet. We move to the next target in 6 hours. Tell them to rest while they can. Aye, Commander. As the crew began their post-battle routines, Voss stared at the burning station. He felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret. Only the cold certainty that this was just the beginning. The Alliance had started this war 30 years ago, but humanity was going to finish it.